Hello students, now this is your course, that is Machine Design 1, and today we are going to complete a topic from unit number 4 that includes the IC engine components, basically the design analysis of IC engine components. And the components are like piston, crankshaft, crank pin, connecting rod, so all these components. So some part has already been discussed by Dr. Galapati Nagababu. So remaining part will be covered by me. So today's topic is the connecting rod, the design analysis of a connecting rod. So, so firstly we start with the introduction part. What is the connecting rod? What are the different functions, and what are the materials used in the applications? And then the buckling of connecting rod. How it? What are the different factors we have to consider for the analysis of connecting rod? So the references, that means I'm going to use the book, that is a famous book by V.B. Bhandari, that is Design of Machine Elements. So introduction, when I start my introduction, I basically we start with what are the functions basically where we use this connecting rod. So in IC engines, it is basically, as the name suggests, is a connecting rod that connects the two ends, the most important ends. One is the piston ring and piston end and the crank pin. So it transmit the force push and the pull forces between the two ends, and one is called as a piston pin end, and one is called as a crank pin end. That is one function. Second is to convert the motion. It converts the reciprocating motion of a piston to the rotatory motion of the crankshaft. And third is to transfer the lubricating oil from the this crank pin to the piston pin, that provide a splash or a jet of oil to the piston assembly. So these are the various functions which are performed by this connecting rod. Now how it connects, where it connects, the connecting rod consists of mainly three parts. One is called as a small end, that to accommodate the piston pin, that means piston end is attached to this small end. Then we have a shank part, and then and the last we have a big end that is split into the two parts in order to accommodate the crank pin. So this is part is connected to the crankshaft using crank pin, whereas this part is connecting to the piston part, the small end, and this is a shank. So that means this we can say this height which is showing visible to us, that is a constant, but it is a varying, which is varies with the length, this height. So now next, it is one of the heavily stressed part of the IC engine because it accommodates the gas pressure. Because of the large forces generated due to gas pressure from the engine is transferred to the crankshaft through this connecting end. That's why it is considered as the most heavily stressed part of the IC engine. So basically we use materials like medium carbon steels with 0.35 to 0.45% carbon, and these alloy steels like nickel, chromium, or the chromium molybdenum steels. So basically when I talk about medium carbon steels, the connecting rod are made up of these medium carbon steels, and we use this in industrial engines basically. Whereas in case of alloy steels, we used this nickel, chromium, and chromium molybdenum steels in a automobile, where connecting rods are used in automobiles or aero engines. Now next thing is the connecting rod length to the crank radius ratio. That is a very important factor, because there will be a great side thrust of the piston can occur if it is not selected accurately. So basically it is less than 4 for the high speed engines and 4 to 5 for the low speed engines. Now what are the high speed engine ranges? It is 1400, which is if it is greater than 1400 rpm, then we set it as a high speed engines. And examples like fishing vessels like small crafts, these are the high speed engines. In that case the L by R should be less than 4. Whereas for a low speed engine, the rpm should be less than, if the rpm of the engine is less than 400 rpm, the speed of the engine is less than 400 rpm, then we use this 4 to 5 factor L by R, and it is nothing but basically a two-stroke diesel engine. This is a low speed engine. Next, uh, it is most of the connecting rod you can see is having a I section, because it reduces the weight and inertia forces. Because whenever we have I section, we have a mass is concentrated, or we have a two flanges, and that the area will be concentrated there, and a very thin web is there that we are going to discuss in the coming uh, slides. So now the main part is the buckling of connecting rod. So why we considered the buckling in this part is because it is the only part which is subjected to load, axial load basically, because buckling occurs when the load passes through the axis, or we can say axial load was there that act along the axial part. Otherwise it is called as a beam when we apply the transverse load. So both the ends, one short side the piston end and one is the crank pin end, where the forces are subjected, whether it will be compressive, then we call it as column part, or a tensile as a strut part. So it is the only component we can take as an example of strut is a connecting rod. So the buckling can occur in two different ways. One is the in plane motion, as you can see from this diagram, that it buckle like this. This is a in plane motion. So this diagram is also showing that this is a in plane buckling. That means if the buckling occurs along the x-axis, then it is called as a in plane buckling. Whereas if the buckling occurs across y-axis, that means y-axis. I will show you the simple diagram for this. So this is the we can say out of plane buckling. These two are the in plane buckling, and these are the out of plane buckling. And out of plane buckling basically occurs along y axis. So basically the connecting rod is subjected to the axial compressive forces that is equal to the maximum gas load on the piston. So that's why the connecting rod will buckle, and that's why these two conditions occurs, whether it will be an in plane buckle or it will be out of plane buckle. But how it occurs, I will tell you. Let's say this is the one section. I have drawn one diagram for this. So this is one type of diagram I can have. So if I say if buckles along the x-axis, if I take one section, let's say this section, if I say it buckles along the x-axis, that means this x-axis, if I apply the load on both the direction of x-axis, it will buckle like this. It will buckle like this. So buckling you already know. Whenever the axial load is applied, the material loses its stability, and it will deform like this, collapse. It will collapse basically. So if we consider the buckling along the x-axis, it will deflect like this. If I consider the buckling along y-axis, it will deflect like this. So this is the two cases, and now we are taking as if same case I can have here. That means if this buckling along x-axis will occur, it will deform like this. It will deform like this, curvature like this in this direction. That is the in plane direction, we can say. And if I talk about y-axis, it will deform like this. This will be the one curvature I can have in y-axis. So that is out of plane, and this is in plane. You can see from this diagram also. So buckling, whenever I talk about the buckling, the first thing come into mind is the Euler load. That Euler load is nothing. We have this is a formula, that is a famous formula for this, pi square EI upon LE square. But that Euler formula is basically applied to basically it give good result for the long column in comparison to the short columns. So for the short column, a Rankine formula is there, that is given by critical load, that is sigma Cy. That is a crushing force, I can say. This is a crushing force, and 1 plus this small a is a material dependent property, which is dependent upon the material. It is different for the aluminium, for the mild steel. So this value will be defined by some constant, and this now and divided multiplied by LE by K whole square. That LE is the equivalent length that depends upon the boundary condition, and this K is the radius of gyration whole square. So this is the formula that is given by the Rankine, and that is a load that is equal to the critical buckling load. Now in order to have a same or to be equally strong about both the axes, that means whether I talk about the x-axis or whether I talk about the y-axis, if I want that critical, if I have to assume that the critical buckling load should be equal, so in that case I have to make it equal. Now first assumption which I have taken is the along x-axis the edges are assumed to be hinged, because bounding, whenever I talk about the buckling, edges are to be defined. That now in this case, let's say edges are hinged means the equivalent length will become the length only, and edges, if along y-axis edges are assumed to be fixed, that is L is equal to L by 4. Now these assumptions, how we assume it all depends upon the mode shape. I will tell you how it occurs basically. Now you know that whenever one end is fixed, other end is free, the deflected shape will be like this. So in that case I can say is that at this point, the fixed point, at the fixed end, deflection is 0 and the slope is 0. Similarly, when I talk about the hinged end or the simply spotted end, the shape, the bending shape will be like this. Then in that case I can say that here the moment is 0 as well as the deflection is 0. Same thing applicable to the buckling part. Whenever I talk about this this end, whenever I say that deflection will be along y-axis, buckling will be along y-axis, this is the y-axis, this is the y-axis, and if the connecting rod fails to do buckling along this y-axis, in that case the shape will be like this. That means this axis is appearing to be a straight line. That means here the slope is 0 as well as deflection is 0. That means it means that along the y-axis, if the shape, this buckling shape, or we can say buckling mode, the first mode of buckling, if this occurs, in that case we can say that here the ends are fixed, because at this point slope is 0 as well as deflection is 0. That means that's why we say that along y-axis edges are fixed, because in that case there is no slope, that means there is no theta at this end, theta is 0, and also there is no deflection, so that means along y-axis the ends are assumed to be fixed. That's why we assume that edges are fixed, just because we find that the deflected shape will be like this. Similarly, along the x-axis you can see that there will be at this point the movement is 0, and along x-axis the movement is 0 as well as deflection is 0 along this axis. So we can say that along x-axis the edges are assumed to be hinged, or in other words simply spotted. That's why we assume these two conditions, and all these conditions, both these conditions depends upon the deflected shape because of the buckling load. So in this case, that deflected shape will be like this. That means we have a fixed end, whereas this case will be like this. So in that case we can say that it is a hinged end, and for that the condition is LE will be equal to L. Otherwise, for fixed end, LE will be equal to L by 2. So now I substitute this LE. Now I am going to use this formula to calculate the relation between this kxx and kyy. Let's say I talk about prxxx. That means remaining term will be the same, because load is same, material is same. Now LE will change. That LE for this hinged end will become LE will become L, and whereas this k become kxx. Similarly for yy, this LE will become L by 4. Sorry, it is L by 2. My mistake. Sorry, it is L by 2. So it will be like this. So now when I substitute there, so it will be L square by 4, and by rearranging the terms we will get that kxx square is equal to k4 times kyy square, or kxx will be equal to 2 times kyy. Also we know that I is equal to ak square, that is a moment of inertia. So when I substitute into this equation, I will get the one relation that Ixx will be equal to 4 times Iyy. So from this I can say that the connecting rod buckles easily in the out of plane direction, because Iyy is less than the Ixx. Ixx basically is 4 times the Iyy. Therefore I can say that connecting rod will buckle easily in the out of plane direction, and out of plane direction is given by the Iyy if the connecting rod is not equally strong in both the direction. If we say that we have applied the condition that the PCRXX is equal to PCRYYY, this condition PCRX and PRYY, if this condition is not applicable, then we can say that it will easily buckle along the YY axis as compared to IXX axis, because IXX is 4 times stronger than IYY. And when I talk about IIXX, means that is a area moment of inertia. What is the meaning of physically meaning of area moment of inertia? That means the resisting part to the bending. How much area is resisting to the bending? That means IYY is not resisting too much to the bending, whereas IXX is resisting 4 times than the IYY. That means this will be the shape basically. If that means it is weak in this part, so it will buckle in first and then it will be buckle. So this is one relation we have find out. Also we can get that relation using geometry. Let's say we have I section of thickness T of flanges. These are the two flanges, and this is called as a web, and whole it is called as a I section. So we assume that this width B is 4t, this height h is 5t. So these are the basically parameters you have to assume, the dimension you have to assume whenever we are going to study the connecting rod. Now area will be given as this 40 into t plus into 2, because 40 into t plus 40 into t, 2 times 40 into t plus this area is how much? This area will be equal to 40 minus t, that is 3t. This is 40 minus t, 3t multiplied by this area. So once you calculate this area and that these two area, you add these two areas, you will get this 11t square. That means total area is equal to 11t square. Now if I talk about IXX, that is the area moment of inertia about x-axis, simply you can get it from when you one way is to find out the total outer area and you subtract it from these two part. That means you know that for a particular rectangular body, the moment of inertia is given as BD cube by 12. So when I talk about IXX axis and when I talk about this complete body, that means 1 by 12, this B will be equal to 40. B into h cube means 5t cube by 12, b d cube by 12, that means 40 into 5t cube by 12 minus these two areas, these small areas you minus. And what are these small areas? Basically 40 minus t, that means 40, this 40 minus t, so this and this will be there, and then 5t minus 2t, this is 2, basically 5t is the total, then t and t, this one, so this length will become 5t minus 2t. So now you have this area and this area. So again, what is b? B is nothing but this length is a bd cube, that is 40 minus t bt cube by 12, and you solve it for this IXX, and you know that IXX is equal to a times kxx square, so kxx square will be equal to 3.17 t square, so kxx is equal to 1.78 t. Similarly you can calculate the IYY since all the areas are passing through this x-axis. What you will simply do is BD cube by 12 for this and BD cube by 12 for this. That means along this axis you calculate the moment of inertia for this part, along this axis you calculate the moment of inertia of this part, along this axis you calculate the moment of inertia of this part, along this axis. So every axis is centralized. So simply when I talk about this y-axis, the b will become my t, that means t cube b, this t into 40 cube by 12, t into 40 cube by 12, but these are the two parts, so multiply by 2 plus this central part, because the line, that is the edge is parallel to y-axis is this one, that means 5t minus 2t, so 3t cube by 3t into t cube by 12. When solve it for this is kyy square, you will get this kyy square. Now equating these two terms IXX and IYY, so you will get that IXX is equal to 3.2 times IYY. In that means the condition which we have assumed earlier, that is IXX is equal to 4 times IYY, is also best suited by when I calculate it through geometry. The geometry it comes out 3.2. So there is a very less difference between these two. That is defined by the Rankine formula, and by comparing this by geometry, the relations are same. So this is all about this buckling of netting rod. Next we are going to start the design procedure, the last part of this topic, that is connecting rod. Thank you.